Hey everyone, so I thought I would do a video today just based on happiness, which is what I refer to as when that which is alive realizes it's alive, or recognizes that its own aliveness, the fact that it is, the fact that it exists, is noticed to be true, ultimately true. And this ultimate truth means that whatever it is that's alive is the ultimate reality. This ultimate reality is what we call and what we all refer to as consciousness. So I think that it's important to make these types of statements because they bring us back to what is ultimately most important. And it's that everybody on the planet, regardless of age, gender, religion, philosophical point of view, should be experiencing happiness. Not because it's a requirement, but because it's simply what we are. It's simply the nature of being alive. So why shouldn't everyone be able to have access to that experience? There is no greater experience possible than to know that simple fact. If there could be a greater experience, that too would be a part of the same recognition, a part of the same exact understanding. So this one that we refer to as ourself, as the one that's alive, its aliveness is mostly covered, concealed. It's concealed by the belief that whatever it is within us that appears to be experiencing our experience is either not noticed, or if it is noticed, it's believed to exist inside the body. And it may not seem very significant. Why? Just because I believe that my awareness is inside a body, why would that make me unhappy? Why would that make me sad? It's because the body is temporary and it exists within time and space. Anything that exists within time and space is born and it dies. So if we hold the belief that the body is something that exists as a higher reality than awareness, than what we are, which by making that claim and holding that as a belief, that's what we are suggesting. We're suggesting that the body has greater relevance in existence than we do, than awareness. What happens is that we hold ourselves in the crack of fear, and that belief holds this little crack in ourself. Not really in ourself, but in our experience. in our mind. And this crack dwells the abyss of fear. The fear that I will die. The fear that someday my sense of existence will disappear and never come back. In other words, what we really fear above all else is that we are living in an unreality and that we will die and that everything is unreal. That's what this belief holds. That's what this belief is doing in the background, which is why when we hold this belief without investigating at all the nature of what we are, we continue to live revolving around that fear. Because fear is itself the experience of non-existence. When I say the experience of non-existence, it's not really the experience of non-existence, because you can't not exist. Existence can't not be, because it never came into being. But we can have the appearance of non-existence when what we are, that being the centerless center of everything that exists, in other words, reality itself, it can create the appearance of whatever it wants, hence the entirety of creation. Now it does so by willing it to be so, through beliefs, or whatever it wants. So if we choose the belief that we are the body, then we're choosing the belief that what we are is limited, and anything that's limited does not have its own ultimate existence. So it's the same as saying, I do not exist. This I do not existness is the experience of fear. It's the experience of fear because it's almost as if we experience what it's like to live and be aware of an unreality, of something that isn't, of something that is not real. That being fear itself, or the belief that that signals the fear is an unreality. And because of that, fear is always present in the background, and our being is even further back than that. In other words, it's a covering of God. It's the covering of what they refer to in religion as the original sin. It's the only sin we make is to turn away from what we are. And because of that, happiness seems to be something that is limited, that is temporary, and that comes and goes throughout our life in different forms of experiences. But what's really happening is that in these moments where we seem to be at joy, at peace, at bliss, just being happy, there are all just other words for what happiness is, which is simply the lack of resisting. It has nothing to do with the body, it has nothing to do with the mind. It's simply the lack of resisting experience. And because of these things that seem to occur, what they do is, the universe is very powerful, right? As you probably know. It has the power to overthrow that original sin, or that original belief in separation. And it does so through beauty and through truth. Things in experience that bypass that belief. And when these things happen, the body and the mind have no choice other than to dissolve temporarily that belief. And in that dissolution, the mechanism that creates that belief that we don't exist it vanishes. And that's why we call it love. Love, truth and beauty are the portals that take us to ourself, to reality. They are the same exact thing, just different points of view, different doorways. Now, when we take the approach of these three portals to ourself consciously and use them as the vehicle to recognize what we are, we see that which we are is not confined within a body. It can't be. We notice that the limitations that seem to be imposed on consciousness, on that which is alive, on the one that is listening to me right now, they're not for that. They're not for the consciousness that experiences our experience. The limitations that are imposed are the body and the mind's limitations. The reason we believe that the body and the mind's limitations are our limitations are because we simply believe ourselves to be the body and the mind. So we assume this limitation as what we are. It's like a photographer taking a photo, and while he's looking down the lens, he forgets he's taking a photo, and he believes to be the image he perceives, rather than the perceiving himself, rather than the awareness of that image himself. And while he's in that mode, he's looking through the lens, believing himself to be looking through that one particular point of view. And that one particular point of view we could call our finite mind. But we all know that the photographer is not the camera, obviously. And we all know that the image in the camera is also not the photographer. Likewise, consciousness is perceiving through the camera of the finite mind, experiencing what seems to be a world. Now, what we then notice is that if we've now taken that metaphor or analogy to its limits, we need to throw that aside. We then need to see that the image that appears through the photographer's camera is himself. It is consciousness that is projecting that image within itself. If consciousness is real, if it truly exists, which it does, as we all know, because we know we are existing, and we know that we are alive, there can only be one. There can't be any more one real thing. Whatever that real thing is must be, therefore, the substance of everything else that seems to exist. And everything that seems to exist must have a reality greater than it. And all the things that those things, the substance of all those things that exist must find themselves in a greater reality. Like the image on your screen, everything in the image on your screen has a greater reality. It exists in the screen. Likewise, every perceivable object or experience that we experience in life is experienced in a greater reality, that reality being consciousness, our essential self. Now, when we see that, which isn't very difficult, it's in fact so simple that it's almost excruciatingly simple, that it's almost infinitesimal. It's like it's almost like an infinite obviousness that is so obvious that it conceals itself in absolute obviousness. That is simply where the source of happiness lies. It lies in being able to see that we're not limited. It lies in being able to see what is the inherently free, already present nature of what we are. Because what that is doesn't resist anything. So the traffic's picking up, and I don't know if the audio is going to be really bad, so I'm going to go. But it's been lovely to chat, and I'll see you soon.